Hey, I saw you down by the river last week. Were you guys fishing or camping? Actually, what were you doing in those really tall boots? Such are the typical questions asked of a Riverwatch volunteer on a day-to-day basis. What seems to outsiders like a program where you just go and watch the river water flow by is actually an integral part of testing the health of Colorado's rivers. The Colorado Riverwatch program is made up of volunteers across the state, each with their own volunteer group and set of rivers or streams to test. Each group goes out to gather samples once a month. All results are then sent to the Riverwatch program headquarters to be processed. The volunteers are made up of mostly students from middle school to college age. Thus, even though the sampling and testing of the samples involves sophisticated chemistry, the explanations are quite simple to aid in understanding for all of the volunteers. Before any testing can be completed, however, the samples must be gathered. Volunteers must spend a good amount of time in preparation before they begin even the sampling. This involves figuring out what materials will be needed, labeling and preparing the necessary bottles, and packing all of the needed supplies. The setting up process often takes longer than 10 minutes. However, I will attempt to run through the steps for preparation in about that time. First, you need to decide which samples you need to gather. Each sample gathering is not the same. Although most of the samples need to be taken once a month, there are a couple of them which actually don't need to be taken as frequently. The dissolved oxygen, hardness, alkalinity, pH, temperature, and metals samples need to be taken once a month. Thus, you need to bring supplies for these samples every outing. The samples for macroinvertebrates and flow rate only need to be taken twice a year. Blanks and duplicates are part of the metals test. They are only taken every 5th month. Their purpose is just to make sure that your process of sampling is not encompassing any contamination. Now that you know which samples you need to take, you can prepare the bottles. You will need to label each sample bottle clearly and prepare certain bottles with deionized water and nitric acid. Labeling is quite easy. You just take the provided labels from the program, write on your station number, station name, the river name, and in the case of the metals, whether they are filtered, non-filtered, blanks, or duplicates. Then you just apply them to the bottles with the nitric acid, the nutrients, and the BOD bottles, and any other bottles that you will be sampling with. Nitric acid preparation just involves adding 12 drops of the setup fluid to the bottles. Be careful while handling this fluid, as it can cause quite an acidic burn to the skin. Nitric acid simply aids in keeping the metals preserved while the samples are being transferred from the river to the sampling lab. Deionized water is just used to rinse the BOD bottles and the syringe. The BOD bottle, seen on the left, is used for the dissolved oxygen test. It needs to be rinsed twice with deionized water to ensure that it is completely pure and ready for a sample. The syringe is used when collecting filtered and non-filtered metal samples. Likewise, it needs to be rinsed twice with deionized water before gaining samples. Deionized water is simply entirely pure water, free of any kind of contamination. Finally, you can pack everything up as you prepare to go to the river or stream of interest. You will be provided with a packing list and a caddy for carrying all the supplies. The Colorado Riverwatch Quality Sampling Manual checklist provides quite a complete list of what you need to bring. This includes a thermometer, field data sheets, a 16-ounce sample bottle for sample collection, a 300 milliliter BOD bottle or biochemical oxygen demand bottle for the dissolved oxygen test, alkaline iodide, manganese sulfate, and sulfamic pillows. Also, you need to bring scissors, metal sample bottles, a syringe, 2 filters per river, a bottle of nitric acid rinse, deionized water, nutrient bottle if you are taking nutrient samples, labeled sample jars for the macroinvertebrates when that time comes, and waders. Waders are just useful for wading out into the water without becoming drenched. They can run in all sizes from simply to the knee length to the thigh length. Also, make sure that you have a safety plan and safety materials with you. This includes bringing gloves or goggles or extra clothing in case of a storm. Pack everything securely and carefully so that nothing falls out into the river, and make sure to work in a group in case of an emergency. Now the preparations are successfully completed. The sampling is far from finished, but most of the tedious work is out of the way. For volunteers who enjoy the outdoors or are at all interested in science, the fun is just about to begin with gathering and titrating the samples. The preparations may have not been the most interesting part, but they are vital to the success of the project. Follow the guide provided in the River Watch manual during the remainder of the process, and things should run smoothly. Never be afraid to make a few mistakes, but always remember to redo things correctly. If you're lucky, your testing area might be in a really sweet basement like mine was. Good luck!